Hey, Pat and Doug here with another episode of the Wealthy Gym Owners. And today we want to talk about scaling to multiple locations. I think almost all of us that have owned a facility uh, got that bug at one point. We thought, okay, hey, I'm going to open up a second, a third. I'm going to scale this to, my entire region. I know my vision when I started my first business was I wanted to have about a dozen. And we opened the second one about 2 hours away. We were really close on three different spots. Even had an investor ready to back us to consider these other three locations and kind of be on that trajectory, and then kind of went a different path and started to get into the franchising world. But Doug, I mean, now you've got you're back as a co-owner in the flagship Sperling Fitness. You've opened up the second location. You've got a space that you're working through some stuff on location number three. So talk about that mindset and that journey.
So it's funny. My vision when I first opened was to just have this cool gym that I got to hang out in and help the community. And that was at this point, gosh, 13, 14, 15 years ago. But the goal was never multiple locations. The goal was just to maximize that single location. I think that was a fixed mindset opportunity for me to get over. Is we don't necessarily, it's all about the team, right? And I'm continuing to learn that and be reminded of that. Like we have an absolute rock star at location two, and I don't think location two would be doing as well as it is without him. And I think that was a big, shift for me when I got back into it and started having this grander vision of multiple locations. Is I've adopted partnerships. I was against partnerships. I've adopted and had a lot of fun with partnerships, and I've now seen the benefit of having just surrounding yourself with really, really good team members. So the vision, of course, is now to grow that and to scale that. But I think the biggest lesson I've learned is, or been reminded of, is just how important we're in the service industry, and it's easy to forget that you can have the best systems in the world, you can have the best products in the world, but ultimately at the end of the day, the people that are delivering those are your biggest key. And so that trying to really be excited about finding good people and building a team has kind of been I would say the lesson, but also the focus of who can we put on our team that will help us get the next location and the next location. So it's been fun.
Yeah, there's no doubt you win with people, right? So I mean, you've probably been as dialed in as anybody I've ever been able to be around when it comes to the system side of this. And just I mean, I think you know the love language of spreadsheets type thing is probably true there. But I mean, you went through a little bit of trial and error, I guess is the way to put it, with finding the right head coach at this second location. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, our vision with the multiple locations is that each location has a head coach, right? Because I certainly, and I think, to back up for a second, it was very important for us that location one was stable. And so if I'm giving any advice, it would be, let's not go expand on something that isn't currently stable. So location one is at capacity. It has a good team in place. It's highly profitable, which I consider to be, at least 20, ideally 30% profit margins, right? So those boxes are checked, and now, expand to location two. So aside from finding the space, our biggest key, so that, Josh or I didn't have to jump back in and coach a ton at all. For me, he's certainly back up to the head coach, is that good head coach. And I think the person that runs a facility, right? So whether you call them head coach or, facility lead or whatever title you slap on it, they really have to have ownership of that location. And maybe it's not like we didn't give them equity ownership. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the mindset of ownership. Like for example, shout out to Nick. Like his first week in there, we had some equipment that was back ordered, some small stuff, like a couple pairs of dumbbells weren't in stock. And first week there, he's realizing, a couple of these clients can't even use the set. We had the lowest weight we had was 7.5s. So he went out to like TJ Maxx or something like that after work one day, and on his own dime, without even telling us, bought a couple pairs of 5-pound dumbbells while the gap, of the back order dumbbells, we were waiting for those to come in. Little things like that. I think you can't teach that, right? Like that's very much an owner's mentality without being an owner. And so taking the time to find that type of person. Now, like I think he's paid fair, but I'm not like overpaying for him. It's just the type of person he is. And it took a lot of trial and error. We went through 3 people that we thought were the fit and then ended up backing out, and, still just constantly, I would say lesson is like always be recruiting. But also, in hindsight, we say this about every hire. We're like, every time, inevitably, we always say, we're glad we waited for this person, right? We're glad we waited. And so if there's any gut thought that you don't think this person is going to be the fit, I have enough hires at this point to realize it's probably not going to be a fit and probably worth the wait, because, another week or 2 goes by and that application comes across your desk and they end up being the rock star that you're looking for.
Now, you completely shifted the model for location 2 and then going forward. You had a relatively big space in location 1, and now the like location 2 is smaller. I think from the outside looking in, that seems like the obvious play. That seems like, okay, if I'm if I'm somebody who's got a healthy primary location, and I think I'm a good operator, right? Like, so I want to expand and add another location or another location. The small footprint, not having to have a huge staff, just fewer moving parts. So it's just easier to get the numbers right, find a few good people, have an effective pre-sale that gets you to profitability. It seems like that's the way. So talk about that thought process for a minute.
Yeah. So, I think there was a lot of lessons that we obviously learned over time with location 1, that it was like, cool, but I can't really change that in this business. An example would be like starting at the top, 1 avatar, right? Like locations 2 and going forward, we are after 1 avatar and 1 avatar only. And, it's less important what that avatar is, but like, a lot of my work on the coaching side is working with gyms that have like 3 different offerings, 3 different avatars, and they're wondering why none of them are growing. And it's because they're trying to grow 3 different businesses within one, and it's never going to happen. So we looked at and saying, okay, who is the avatar that we enjoy working with? Who is the avatar that we, because over 12 years of location 1, we had, everybody from the athletes to the young, more athletic focused, aesthetically focused, 40-year-olds to the, post PT, I'm injured and need more of a rehab type program. And so we weren't going to like cancel their memberships and say, no, we don't work with you anymore. So focusing on 1 avatar going forward was a big goal with future locations. The other thing we learned is 1 model, right? So we're known for small group personal training. That's what we enjoyed delivering. Over the years, we had, more, let's call them group class, HIIT style classes, and we still at location 1 have those on the schedule. It's decreasing as we over the years, but still, we have veteran clients that's why they joined, was just for those group classes. and we have, I don't know, maybe 8 of them on the schedule a week, right? As far as number of sessions. But that's not who we wanted to serve. That's not who we wanted to, that's not the type of staff we wanted to have on the team that delivered those types of sessions. So really focusing on one model. And then the final, I would say the third biggest piece was the team side of it, right? I mean, at our peak, I think we had 12 or 13 staff, and it was fun. Like, I had a lot of fun with it, and I think I still want that number of people, but maybe across multiple locations, so there's lower risk. But for context, location one is running 3 to 4 sessions every hour, and there's usually 2 to 3 sales happening, like success sessions happening on a typical day. So you think of all those moving parts, mornings and afternoons. One coach calls out, one coach is gone, the others are still needing to deliver all that with that volume. So it becomes this jigsaw puzzle that just becomes frankly a pain in the neck to solve anytime it gets disrupted. And so the staffing piece of it, with future locations needing 2 trainers, and no front desk, no admin, we centralized admin operations. That there's downside to it for sure. I still don't have an answer on this, but I am curious on like the cultural impact of it with only having 2 trainers. But overall, like it's obviously much easier to manage from the team side of it. So those will be the big 3 things looking at going forward. What we wanted to kind of simplify, because that was ultimately the end of it. It is like simplify, simplify, simplify.
Well, I think for the owner here that's watching or listening, who wants to build wealth and says, look, I like gyms, I know gyms, I like the model, I like having recurring revenue. I think this is a viable path for somebody to say, okay, I can expand my footprint without feeling like I'm drowning myself and adding all the moving parts and the stress that might come with duplicating that first location. So yeah, I thought that was really an important thing to touch on. Obviously with our coaching clients, you've done a great job of unpacking the whole journey from site selection to build out to pre-sale, and I think that's a pretty good roadmap that if somebody wants to do a next location is their vehicle. I mean, we've seen this. We've seen people in the fitness industry that have a location that, man, they've gone and become a franchisee of another location just because that's how they wanted to scale, right? Like they felt like they had some strengths and they could leverage those strengths through this vehicle, but they didn't run the same model as the original, right? Like, so finding something that's simpler seems like a really interesting approach.
Yeah, I think when, at least I can speak for myself and our coaching clients that I talk to, but a lot of us, when we first get into this industry, we try to be like a unicorn, right? We think we have to cater to everybody. We have to, we think we're so special. We think, we're the egos that, the traditional trainer egos at play. There's all this stuff at play, and we try to make our facility as unique as possible. And although there are slivers of that are important, I would say they're more important on aspects of like community building and the culture that you're trying to build, and how you recognize and reward your clients. Those things can be unique, and I think the relationship piece of it is what can be unique. But the actual like nuts and bolts of who you serve, how you're priced, the model that you run, that has proven frameworks and proven models, proven roadmap that I've learned from that angle. Let's just follow the roadmap.
Very cool. Well, if you've considered looking into multiple locations, if that's something you aspire to do, I mean, I know I've done it, and I was, silly enough to have the two locations 2 hours apart in different time zones. I think there's plenty of upside. You can leverage things that you're good at, but there are also plenty of pitfalls that you want to avoid. So, Doug, thanks for kind of pulling back the curtain on both sides of that. And that's maybe the peek behind the curtain on opening second location. So, Pat and Doug with another episode of Wealthy Gym Owners signing off.